The final Football Friday of the regular season. We welcome you in the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. We give out our final picks for the regular season. We preview the final Cardinals game of their season, and we get you ready for whatever is about to take place on Sunday for Week 18. I'm still unsure. We start this show, and I believe in transparency on this program. I believe in being honest with you, the listener. We sit here. The Schubert 6 is coming up at about 12:45. So about an hour and 40 minutes from now. And I, sitting here right now, do not have all 6 picks locked in. I am not certain where we are going to go on the show today. I don't know what our picks are going to be. Normally, by the time this microphone comes on, I know exactly where I want us to go. I don't today because there's a lot of weird stuff that you can just see on the horizon on Sunday. I do know where we are going to start today's show with the Daily Special. So let's at least do that.
Time for our top story of the day. It's the Daily Special.
Really just filibustering as long as I can to make these picks in hour number 2 of the program. I've pushed it off to it's out of its normal spot. I've made it like the second to last segment of the show. I'm trying to buy myself all the time in the world. Yeah, we might even do it in the leftovers. That's how scared I am of making the picks here today on the show. You should be scared if you are a Phoenix Suns fan because it is now crunch time. The calendars turn from 2024 to 2025, and it's not the final couple weeks of the season, but it is crunch time. It is make it or break it time for the Phoenix Suns. This is it. The stretch starting tomorrow when they take on Indiana is their chance to get themselves back into this. We can forget every other conversation that we have had over the last 2.5 months. Every conversation that we've had about stories of redemption and the great start that this team had and the injuries that have piled up and the Bradley Beal trade rumors and the Jimmy Butler trade rumors and the disappointing defense. Every single layer to this story, every single layer to this onion that we have unpeeled since the start of the season, you can put it all to the side. You can take it and forget about it because now, as we turn the calendar to 2025, there's one thing that matters. Make January count. Here is your chance. Forget everything that's occurred. You are 2 games below 500. You are out of the playoffs if they were to start today. You can forget all of that. You have 1 month to change everything. A good month, starting tomorrow when you take on Indiana. You play well. You have a month that we know you are capable of having, and you are right back into the playoff conversation. You are right back into the conversation in the Western Conference, and maybe we revisit the proclamations that we have made, the declarations we have made on this show. That's what you can do starting tomorrow. That's what you can do in January. You can make us forget about everything that's happened. It'll be a footnote. Hey, remember when the Suns got off to that really bad start through the first 30 games, but remember how they finished? That's what you can do. You can change the narrative. Sometimes when a season goes sideways, it's hard to reclaim control. Here's your chance to reclaim control. Here's your opportunity. I don't want to hear about who's not in the lineup. I don't want to hear about the excuses. Go out there and win basketball games. That's it. That's what you need to do in January. If you don't, I can promise you right now, to everybody that can hear my voice on the radio, to everybody that listens and watches the stuff we put out on social media or the clips that we put out on YouTube. And by the way, if you want to join us on YouTube, KDUS AM 1060 on YouTube, you can join the video version of the show. To everybody that consumes this show in its various formats on a regular basis, you know where I stand on this team. You know that I'm ready to be done with this experiment. And I know the pain that causes. And I know the tough conversations that get had when you open the door to end the experiment and to hit the reset button. I'm very well aware of the tough conversations we're going to have about Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. I'm very well aware of what comes with that territory. Extremely aware. Yet I know that we are closer to that reality than the reality of the Suns being contenders. January could change that course, could change that path. And the only people who have a say in the matter are the members of the Phoenix Suns. So Bradley Beal, yesterday, I said, you've shown us who you are. We're going to believe you. Here's your chance to step up when you get back into the lineup. Devin Booker, you want more than 120,000 people voting for you in the All-Star game? Here's your moment. Show that you can elevate your game and be the complementary piece. Be the 1A to Kevin Durant's 1 that he has been throughout this season. And Kevin Durant, keep doing what you're doing. And somebody else step up. This is it. This is your season. The month of January is the Phoenix Suns season. It's not supposed to be this way. Things are not supposed to be make it or break it in January, but the Phoenix Suns' run of play and their injury luck and some of the same stuff that happened last year, reoccurring this year, has put us into this position. It has put us in a place where we are talking about 1 month in January being the make it or break it time for the Phoenix Suns. So when the calendar turns again from January 2025 to February 2025, we're going to know. You're going to know. I'm going to know. The Phoenix Suns front office is going to know. We are all going to know. Is it time to hit the reset button? Or has this team shown us what they haven't been able to show us consistently enough since all three guys were brought here? That they can do this. That they can be the team that they are supposed to be. We're not asking them. Looking at a talent level that has Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, it is not an unrealistic expectation to say get into the postseason and be competitive. It is not an unrealistic expectation to say you should be in the mix for the Western Conference Championship. That is not unrealistic. It was not unrealistic when this season began. And yet here we are, 32 games into the season, and it is starting to feel unrealistic. Why? Because of all the concerns that people sounded the alarms about in the summertime, reared their ugly head from the word go. We got less than 12 games into the season before the injuries started to strike, and we have never recovered from that moment. We have never recovered from Kevin Durant getting sidelined. The team has never recovered from that moment. But unfortunately, that's not an acceptable excuse. When you decided to run this back, this is the risk you signed up for. You signed up for this outcome. Well, guess what? Somebody has to figure it out. Because this is it. This is your last chance. This window is going to come and go before you know it. Kevin Durant's going to be 37 years old. Bradley Beal is going to still be here with a no-trade clause getting older. And as he gets older, do you think that his injury profile, that his skill set is one that is going to age well? Or do you think it's only going to get worse, the injuries that pile up for Bradley Beal? Which reality do you think is in the future for the Phoenix Suns? This is the last chance. This is last call for the Phoenix Suns. January 2025 is the last call for the Phoenix Suns. What do they do with that opportunity? A schedule that's favorable. Opportunities aplenty. You're not running the gauntlet of the Western Conference. You're not even running a gauntlet of the Eastern Conference in the teams that you are playing. If you have two members of the Big Three available for these games, you should step on the floor every single night with a chance to win basketball games. Yet so far, that has not been the case. Here's your chance to change it. Here is the last moment. I don't want to call it the last straw because I'm out on this team. You know that by now. But for those of you that are still on the fence or are still trying to be optimistic and trying to be in on this team, heed my warning. January should be your last straw. What they do this month should be make it or break it. You play well. You take care of business in this schedule. You put yourself back into one of the playoff spots. Okay. We can see this through. You don't. You continue to play this way. You continue to lose to teams like Dallas without their star player in Luka Doncic. Teams like Memphis the other night, missing all the guys that they were missing. You continue to stack up wins like that with context like that. Stack up losses like that with context like that. Then you're done. It's over. And that's a tough reality to face for an owner that has come in here and has spent a gazillion dollars, has spent a ton of money trying to win. But at some point, you have to cut your losses. You have to admit the failure. You have to admit the experiment is over. January is the month where we get that definitive answer. And if this organization, after another bad month, chooses to now triple and quadruple down, then whatever happens after that for this team and whatever their long-term future looks like, they're going to bear that responsibility. But it is not going to be the position of this show, of this radio host, to look at you all and convince you that there's reason to believe. There's not. They have to give you that reason to believe, and they have to do it this month in January. If they don't, get off the train. At the next stop, at the end of the month, get off the train. Stop the ride. Buy a ticket later on. Don't convince yourself of something that is not true. Don't convince yourself of something that's not reality. If we get to the end of January and this team is still below 500 and this team is still out of playoff contention, you have a large sample size that should tell you, get off the train. Both teams will not be playing for anything on Sunday. So that begs a very important question. Is there anything for us to learn? That's next on the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. Another great reason to download the KDUS AM 1060 app is you can now see all the video stuff that we put out there as well. You open up the app, scroll down to the bottom, all the video stuff is there as well. So that is your one-stop shop for everything here, KDUS AM 1060, and everything here for the lunch break. We have the NFL look ahead in about 15 minutes from now. We'll go through all of the games, and I will try to not say the same thing about every game because every game doesn't really matter. And I will attempt. It is my promise to you that I will attempt to say something different about all of these football games. I will try. I will try my best. That coming up in 15 minutes. One of those games where teams aren't playing for anything is the Arizona Cardinals regular season finale on Sunday when they take on the San Francisco 49ers to close out their 2024-25 season and to end this year and to enter into a very critical offseason for this team. And In the tease before the break, I asked, is there anything to learn? Because I think most of you are like me. Team gets eliminated. Team's out of playoff contention. The brain starts to wander. You start to break out the computer, break out the phone, the tablet. You start looking. Free agency. Who's available? You start to look at cap space. You start to look at the draft. This is where a lot of people start checking in on college prospects. Ooh, who might be available? You're going to Tankathon. You're seeing where the Cardinals are going to pick. This is your first time to switch gears and to flip into offseason mode. The moment that E is next to your team's name, they're out. That's really when most of you, and I get it, but this is when most of you start to think about the offseason. I'm the same way. Although on this show, I think we do a great job of balancing both the now, the short term, while looking at things from a big picture, long-term lens. But I get it. You have to wait until your team's eliminated to start thinking about next season. You, week to week, you're trying to make the playoffs. You're trying to watch your team succeed. And so all of us now, I think, are in that mode of, do I really care what happens on Sunday in the final game of the regular season? Do I really care how the season ends? Am I going to feel better if they win or if they lose? Or do I want to just hit the fast forward button like I do in Madden and get to the offseason, get to March and legal tampering, and start to envision certain players filling roles and filling empty spots on this roster for 2025? If any of you are like me, you're thinking about that. I'm dreaming of what T. Higgins might look like in a Cardinals uniform. I am trying to piece together what that contract might look like. I'm looking at all the edges that might be available to get veteran presence for this pass rush for next season. Because as we all know, one of the main priorities for this team going into 2025 is you have to get after the quarterback. And they don't have the guys in the building in order to do that. It is going to be an external solution to this problem. And so let's bring it back to the game that is going to be played on Sunday. Is there anything to learn from Sunday's game in particular? Is there anything that we're going to take from this game? There's a bunch of stuff we're going to take from the season. Some Kyler Murray concern once again. We know this defense played extremely well under the circumstances, but they need help. Marvin Harrison Jr., disappointing rookie season. Need to see step forward, some growth in year two. Those takeaways are all there before the Cardinals set foot on the field on Sunday. We yesterday talked about how the Cardinals have a chance to do something they haven't done since 2015, and that is win at least 6 home games in a season. So that's important, but we don't learn anything from that. That's just a nice thing to file away for next season. You won 6 games at home. You're potentially starting to turn this into a home field advantage if you can show us that consistency over 2 seasons. That's great. That's a reason to root for them to win on Sunday. But is there anything to learn? Are you going to feel differently about Marvin Harrison Jr. if he balls out on Sunday? Are you going to feel differently one way or the other about Kyler Murray depending on how he plays? I'm out on Kyler. I know it's going to be difficult to move on from him, and it's easier to say you're out. You have to give a solution. And I don't know what options are realistically out there. They're not going to be in a position to draft a replacement. They might be able to trade Kyler and then sign somebody in free agency or acquire. J.J. McCarthy might be out there. There are potential outcomes and scenarios to play out, but there's not a bona fide slam dunk easy solution. So I get the pushback there. But there's nothing that Kyler Murray is going to be able to do in a meaningless game on Sunday that's going to change my opinion. If he goes out there and throws for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, that doesn't change my stance that you do that in a garbage time game at the end of the season where both teams don't care and the 49ers are starting Josh Dobbs. If Kyler plays poorly, it's not going to further reinforce my position. I'm going to be very consistent in how I feel. So there's nothing that can be done from Kyler's perspective to change my opinion. Marvin Harrison Jr., if he plays great, are the last 2 games of the season going to be enough to make us feel differently about his rookie campaign? If he plays poorly, Is it going to further reinforce that it's been a disappointing rookie campaign? I don't know. Everything is kind of caked in at this point. Everything is baked in. You want to root for your team to win because you can't bring yourself to be team tank? Fine. I'm not going to hold that against you. It doesn't really matter. The Cardinals can't really move all that much with a loss. It's not like they can go from where they sit all the way up to like 3 or 4. That's not possible. They're kind of locked into a range, and that range is pretty much a similar tier of player that you're going to get in this draft. So I don't think you need to be full-on team tank like some of these other teams need to be on Sunday because you're not playing for anything, and it is a game of musical chairs to see who's going to land in pole position to land either Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward at the top of the draft as one of the 2 quarterbacks. Jalen Milroe declared yesterday, so you can throw his name into the mix as a potential first-round quarterback that we might see get taken. Wouldn't be me, but he declared, and quarterback-needy teams might push him up the board into the first round. So there isn't that cloud hanging over this game. And so I think really what you want to see is you want to see this team get through this game healthy. You don't want to see any dumb injuries at the end of the year that now linger into 2025, where when the season restarts, those games are going to matter. They're going to carry way more importance than this game. This game carries 0 importance. This game means nothing in the grand scheme of things. So you want to get through this game free of injury. You don't want anything that could linger into next season. But unfortunately, there is nothing that can get answered for this team in this last game. Everything that needs to be answered either takes place via free agency in the offseason or when we start 2025. They messed this up. Going 1-5 post-bye put them in a place where we just need to get to the offseason. We just need to get to Monty Ossenfort being able to make moves for this team. Free agency. We need to get to the end of April for the NFL draft. And then, unfortunately, we then need to go through the summer months and get to August and September. And I know that's a tough thing to say since it's January 3rd. And I'm already talking about next August. But that's where we're at with this team. There are other teams across the league that are playing games on Sunday where they can evaluate some stuff. New England might want to see another game out of Drake May. But overall, when you look at the schedule for this Sunday in the NFL, and we're going to get to it here in a little bit via the NFL Look Ahead, there is not a whole lot going on. There are a lot of teams that are benching players, sitting players down because their season's over. They don't want to get guys hurt. Playoff teams. I mean, think about this. Kansas City Chiefs have 1 loss going into this game on Sunday. And they have sat down Patrick Mahomes. They're starting Carson Wentz. The Denver Broncos are 10.5-point favorites against the Kansas City Chiefs. All because of all the players that Kansas City is sitting. So that's where we're at. With so many of these spots locked up, it makes it to where there's not a lot of evaluation. And let's say you do have a good performance. Let's say somebody breaks out and has a great game. In the back of your mind, you're going to say, well, yeah, but you're doing it against Josh Dobbs. You're doing it against the San Francisco team that's, let's face it, are they really trying? Who cares who wins the football game? A lot of teams, a lot of players are thinking about vacation. And they're thinking about getting through 4 quarters, not getting hurt, and then starting their offseason. And then there are some that want to get through 4 quarters and they want to move on to the postseason. And they just want this to be a nonchalant, very forgettable football game. They don't want anything notable, anything memorable. So forgive me if I don't want to take anything away from this football game, good, bad, or indifferent. This is one of those games that it's going to happen. We're going to watch it. We're going to break down some of the big storylines from it. But ultimately, what type of lasting power do those storylines have? Is there anything that's going to happen on Sunday that we talk about on Monday going to be a lasting impact besides a catastrophic injury that then impacts 2025? And while you can't predict that, I assume that teams are going to be able to call plays and there's going to be kind of a gentleman's agreement about not trying to injure somebody. Especially when you have two teams that are already thinking about their vacation plans. And so that's what happens when you go 1-5 post-bye. That's what happens when you mess up an opportunity like the Cardinals had when they were 6-4. When you play this poorly, you then put yourself into football purgatory where there are still games to be played, yet nobody really cares. Nobody cares what happens on Sunday. So there is nothing. Did I say nothing that I'm going to learn from this game on Sunday? I'm going to watch it. I will tell you it is one of the few Schubert 6 plays that is locked in for this week. And then we're going to break it down on Monday. And then we're going to start to lay the groundwork for what needs to be done in the offseason. Next week is going to be a debrief week, a look back week, a look back at the season, good, bad, ugly. And then it's going to be laying the groundwork for the offseason because before you know it, these shows are going to fly by and we're going to get to March and it is going to be a free agency bonanza. And the Arizona Cardinals are in a decent position to be at the center of it all with the cap space and needs that they have. 480-864-1060 is the phone number for you to join the conversation here on any of the stuff that we have talked about so far. On the other side, it is the last week of the regular season. That means it is the last NFL look ahead for the regular season. We will do it next here on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. I'm going to double down on a take that I had yesterday on the program because we touched a nerve a little bit with some of the social media reaction. That coming up in about 15 minutes. But without further ado, it is the last one of the regular season. It is the Week 18 NFL Look Ahead. And luckily for us, we get to start with games that have some level of meaning, because there are two games that are going to take place on Saturday. Game number one is going to be the Cleveland Browns taking on the Baltimore Ravens. The Cleveland Browns have announced Bailey Zappi is going to start for them in this game. That has made the number in this game for the Baltimore Ravens, Baltimore minus 20. Baltimore at home against Bailey Zappi are nearly 3 touchdown favorites. Now, the Ravens need this game because a win locks up the division for them. They get to host a home playoff game, and they get to avoid needing to go on the road. A loss, the door opens up for Pittsburgh, who also plays on Saturday. So 2:30 for us here in Arizona. The Browns and the Ravens are going to take the field. A Ravens win locks things up for Baltimore. Pittsburgh can react accordingly. They can do what they want to do from that perspective. A Baltimore loss, the Browns winning, again, 20-point underdogs. But if they win the football game, then that means a Steelers win. The division is in play. Now, you may think that's the only thing that's on the line. The Cincinnati Bengals are very much rooting for the Baltimore Ravens, I think. Because if the Baltimore Ravens win, the Steelers then don't have that much of an incentive in order for them to win the football game, because that is our next matchup. The Bengals will take on the Steelers. The Steelers right now are the 5 seed. Now, they kind of care, because if they lose and the Chargers win, then the Chargers would get the 5 seed, the Steelers would get the 6 seed, and then we would get Steelers-Ravens. That hasn't worked out very well for the Steelers so far, and by staying in the 5 seed, the Steelers then would take on the Houston Texans. So the Steelers obviously want the division because they want to be the 3 seed, and they want to host a home playoff game. That would be ideal. But they also need the game because they want to avoid opening the door for the Chargers, and we'll get to the Chargers in a little bit. They're taking on the Raiders. The Bengals need the game because they need to win to force maximum pressure on the Broncos. If the Bengals win and get to 9-8 and the Broncos lose and the Dolphins lose, the Cincinnati Bengals get into the playoffs. Remember, week after week after week on this program, we told you Bengals were done, cooked, too little, too late. Well, maybe not. Maybe they have one more chance. It needs a win on Saturday to be at least somewhat of a reality. But you have a Pittsburgh team that, again, if the Ravens win, it takes the division off the table. But they still have a little thing to play for, because I think if you were asking them, they would rather travel to Houston to take on a Houston team that's really not that great, rather than needing to travel on the road to take on division rival Baltimore. So there is something for them to play for, no matter what happens in Browns-Ravens. Then you get to Sunday. So that was nice, right? Producer Corey, that was good. We were able to talk about football games. They had meaning. They were impactful. There's ramifications. And now we get to Sunday. And I'm here to tell you there's a lot of these games that don't matter at all. We will start with an NFC clash. The 4-12 Panthers will go on the road to take on Michael Penix and the 8-8 Atlanta Falcons. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers trying to hold off Atlanta. Atlanta wins, Tampa loses, Atlanta gets in. A very important game for the Atlanta Falcons. The Carolina Panthers can play spoiler, but mind you, they are 4-12, and they are in a glut of teams that are 4-12, kind of battling it out to see who is going to end up getting into the top 5 of the 2025 NFL Draft. So not a ton to play for the Panthers. A lot to play for the Atlanta Falcons. There is no path for them without Tampa losing and without them winning. They need a Tampa loss, and they need to win. There are no wild card spots available. That's it. That is the last spot that is up for grabs. They need to win that football game in order to get in. The Commanders, the 11-5 Commanders, will go on the road to take on the 7-9 Cowboys. And this is really seeding purposes. Right now, as it stands, the Washington Commanders at 11-5, they hold the tiebreaker over the Green Bay Packers. By staying in front of the Packers, they would play the Los Angeles Rams in LA. Not the team I would really want to draw. But the Green Bay Packers, who are the 7th seed right now, would travel on the road to take on the Philadelphia Eagles in the first round. So of those two, I think I'd rather go to L.A. than Philly. Philly, a really good team right now. So that's what Washington is trying to avoid, a date with Philly in the wild card round. In order to do that, they need to stay in front of Green Bay. So that is what is on the line for them. Speaking of Green Bay, and speaking of all of those outcomes, they will take on the Chicago Bears. The Packers are 10-point favorites in this football game. Literally nothing to play for the Bears other than if they want to say they did not go winless on the road this season. That is what is in front of them. They are 0-7 on the road this season. This is their last game of the year. It is a road game, a chance to not go 0-8 on the road. That is what is on the line for them. We've mentioned what is on the line for the Packers. Right now, it is a date with the Eagles. With a win, it could be a date with the Los Angeles Rams. The Texans are going to take on the Titans in a game that means absolutely nothing to either side. The Houston Texans locked in to being the 4 seed, locked in as a division champ, nothing to play for. There's no seeding on the line. There's nothing they can do. They cannot change their position. And for the Tennessee Titans, winning football games is bad for you right now. You are in position to take a quarterback, at least from your roster-wise, right? Will Levis didn't work out. You benched him. You went to Mason Rudolph to close out the season. You now want to put yourself in a position to have a conversation about Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. You don't want to be a team that's picking 7 or 8 and then has to give up a whole bunch in order to get there. So Titans, no reason for wanting to win this football game. The Texans don't care. Tennessee's a 1.5-point favorite in this football game. The Jags taking on the Colts. I promised that I would attempt to tell you that there's something about these games that is different. But everything I just said about the Texans and the Titans applies here. These teams aren't playing for anything. The Jags, they don't need a quarterback, but they'd like a pretty high pick, so a win doesn't really help them. The Colts at 7-9, maybe you need to win in order to save some jobs so you can finish 8-9 and say that you are close. That might be what's on the line there. There's some rumors going around about them being one of the teams that makes some wholesale changes next Monday. And that's going to be a big storyline that we're going to cover here on this program. It doesn't have anything to do with the Cardinals, but we will know pretty quickly on Monday, probably by the time we get on the air, how many openings there are. And we can start to do the conversation of which one's the most attractive, who are some of the candidates. We can start to have that conversation. The Bills will take on the Patriots. The Bills only 2.5-point favorites. Why? Because they're sitting everybody at 13-3. They are locked into their position as the 2 seed. The Ravens can't catch them. They can't catch the Chiefs. The Patriots probably don't want to win this football game. May want to evaluate Drake May some more. That's what that game has for you. The Giants and the Eagles. Now, the Eagles, interestingly enough, are kind of hanging around here. I don't know exactly the tiebreakers. I don't think there's a scenario where because the Lions and Vikings are going to play each other, and one of them is going to get to 15-2, and the Eagles can't get there. So the Eagles are locked into the 2 spot. And so what are you playing for? Nothing. And that's why you're only 2.5-point favorites against the New York Giants. We mentioned the Bucs right now holding on to the 4 seed. If they want to keep that 4 seed, they need to beat the New Orleans Saints. And they're 14-point favorites in that contest at home. And that game is kicking off at the same time as Panthers-Falcons. So there's going to be a lot of scoreboard watching going on in Carolina, in Atlanta, in Tampa Bay, in New Orleans, because those teams are going to be keeping an eye on what is going on in those other games you might pull your starters if things start to look good for you. But the Bucs need to win. A win locks out the Falcons. A loss, they then need a Falcons loss in order to get in. Then we get to the afternoon slate. The Chiefs will take on the Broncos. The Broncos need to win. If they lose, they open the door for one of 2 teams. They open the door to the Bengals, as long as the Bengals win on Saturday. We have already told you about that. And the Dolphins, who also kick at 225, get in with a win and a Bronco loss. A Bronco loss opens the door for everything to get chaotic in the AFC. They will take on the Kansas City Chiefs. But again, Denver, 10.5-point favorites because the Chiefs are sitting Patrick Mahomes. They're not playing any of their major starters. So it appears as if it's going to take an upset from the Chiefs in order for this pathway to open. But guess what? If you're the Bengals, you win on Saturday, you at least apply maximum pressure. They're going to be thinking about it when they step foot on the field. If you lose, kind of relieves the pressure a little bit. Then they know that's one less team they have to worry about. And then they can just keep an eye on the scoreboard for Miami. If Miami is winning and the Bengals have already won, that is going to put all sorts of pressure on the Denver Broncos. The Chargers will take on the Raiders. As we mentioned, if the Steelers lose on Saturday, the Chargers could play their way into the 5 seed and get a date with Houston. That's very important. It would be very nice to, instead of traveling to Baltimore, to go to Houston in the first round. Feels very likely that you'll be able to get past Houston in the first round more so than you would be able to get past Baltimore. So that is a important thing for the Los Angeles Chargers. Now they need a Steelers loss to open that door. The moment they lose, I think that kind of ends things, although the Broncos could get to 10-7 and mess things up in the playoff picture. That's another thing to keep an eye on. So all of these scenarios will get put in front of you. You'll need an abacus to be able to put it all together. And then you have the Seahawks and the Rams. 10-6 Rams taking on the 9-7 Seahawks. The Rams locked into the division. Not necessarily locked into the 3 seed, at least record-wise. I don't necessarily know the tiebreakers between the two teams, but a Bucs win and a Rams loss would get them both to 10-7. I'm going to very quickly look to see if the two teams played this season, because that's the easiest tiebreaker. They haven't, so then you have to go to all the other tiebreakers that I don't know off the top of my head, so I don't know who has that advantage, but a win puts all that to bed. It ends it. It makes sure that you don't have that problem. The Dolphins taking on the Jets. We told you what the Dolphins need. They need a Broncos loss, but then they also need to beat the New York Jets. And then on Sunday night, the game of the week, Vikings-Lions. A win, 15-2, the NFC North crown, and the number 1 seed in the NFC. A loss, 14-3, the 5 seed in the NFC, and a road playoff game, more than likely at Tampa, potentially the Rams, how the tiebreakers play out. But it is a road playoff game, and road playoff games a majority of the way is the 5 seed, or it is being the number 1 seed and having everything go through you. That is what is on the line on Sunday. So starters playing across the board in that game. That game going to be 4 quarters of maximum chaos. That's the one that you want to watch. All these other ones, we mentioned them to you. A lot of them don't really matter. A lot of them kind of have playoff implications, but only if certain other things happen. That game has all the playoff implications in the world. That is your NFL Week 18 look ahead, and we will break it all down on Monday with the NFL Rewind. On the other side, we will wrap up hour number 1 of the lunch break. It appears as if we touched a nerve yesterday with something that we said, but you know what? I'm going to double down on the take. I will do it next here on the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. At the top of the hour, we will talk about if a win will change how you feel about the 2024-25 Cardinals season. That's how we will start hour number 2 of the program. But as we wrap up hour number 1 of the show, yesterday, we broke down ASU's college football playoff quarterfinal loss from every different angle. The good, the bad, the ugly. The 4th and 13 play that is going to be remembered forever, the targeting non-call, everything that went down in that football game. We tried to lean more into the positive because I do think there were a lot of positives coming out of that game. It was Wednesday. The days are a blur. Today feels like a Tuesday. It's really a Friday. Yesterday felt like a Monday, but it was actually a Thursday. We had a day off in the middle of the week. We didn't do a show on a Wednesday. I'm very confused as to where we're at. But it is a Friday. It is a football Friday. And so we yesterday on this show, for the game that was played on Wednesday, mentioned one of the most important silver linings from that game. And it was that game showed to me that ASU has a quarterback. That Sam Leavitt is, and the word that I used, is a dude. And when I say dude, you put it in all capital letters and you bold face font. Bold, underlined, capital letters, Sam Leavitt is a dude. That was my takeaway from that game yesterday. And so I think we can go behind the scenes here, producer Corey. After the show is over, show gets podcasted, but we also cut up the show into segments, and this is a cheap plug for the YouTube. You can see the segments that we think are, I don't want to say evergreen, but we think will do the best on YouTube. We cut them up, we put them out over there, but we also put up social media content, short form, quick little, the take of the day, right? And we put it out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, we put it everywhere. And I knew when I left the studio yesterday to get started on all that work, I knew what the social media content was going to be. It was going to be my Sam Leavitt take. Because in a game in which he statistically got outplayed by the other quarterback, statistically didn't play that great of a game, his team lost. I made the case on this show that he is a dude, that the future is bright. When you make a claim like that, you kind of get this feeling that that's going to generate some conversation. So we put it out on our social media accounts. And I will tell you, there is one platform in particular where the comments went nuts. And it was on TikTok. And there were some people who, they were very polite. Nobody was nasty. Nobody was mean. But there was some pushback to my take. And I summarized at least 3 of the pushbacks that I got. And I'm telling you right now, none of these complaints, none of these arguments are enough for me to change my position. I'm doubling down here. But this was the criticism that was put out there to my take that Sam Leavitt is a dude and the Sun Devils have their quarterback. The first one, which is my favorite, is he's just a scrambler. If your takeaway, very good point, if your takeaway from that game on Wednesday is the reason why Sam Leavitt isn't a good quarterback is he's just a scrambler, then you've told me 2 things. You don't understand modern football and modern college football, and 2, you don't understand the deficit that the Sun Devils were at in that game. They didn't have their leading wide receiver. Their wide receiver room, even with that leading wide receiver, didn't inspire a ton of confidence. It wasn't instilling fear in the opposing defense. And then you take away one of the best receivers in the Big 12, it makes it really difficult to throw the ball down the field because you're going to send pressure, you're going to stack the box, you're going to force the quarterback off platform, and you're going to trust your corners in man coverage because you aren't that afraid of what ASU is throwing at you receiver-wise. So to say that he's just a scrambler is excluding some really important context. Some really important context. So that was criticism number 1. Criticism number 2, without the running back, without Cam Scadaboo, there's no offense. Let me see if I can do this without producer Corey needing to use the dump button. Cam Scadaboo is a major reason why the Sun Devils were even in that game yesterday. Cam Scadaboo is a major reason why the Sun Devils were in the college football playoff. That doesn't mean Cam Scadaboo is the only reason why the Sun Devils were in the college football playoff. Sam Leavitt balled out the second half of the season. He ended the season 16 touchdowns, 1 interception. The only reason why they took a lead in overtime is on a 3rd and long, Sam Leavitt scrambled around and picked up a first down. The only reason why they were in overtime is because Sam Leavitt made a throw to Cam Scadaboo on a wheel go route that scored a touchdown. The only reason why, or one of the reasons why the Sun Devils were in overtime is because Sam Leavitt took care of the football and didn't turn the ball over. And so if you are saying that without the running back there's no offense, then what you are saying is that next season, ASU is going to be right back to where everybody thought they were going to be going into this year. Because if they're just one player, that player's gone. So you're saying they're going to be the worst team in the Big 12. They're going to have no chance. Nobody should believe in Kenny Dillingham. Nobody should believe in this program. That tells me, and I hate to be this guy, that tells me you weren't watching all season. Because Sam Leavitt is one of the reasons why they were even in this spot. He played sensationally down the stretch. Did he play like a Heisman Trophy candidate? No. But as a red shirt freshman, he did what his coach asked him to do. He took care of the football and he made plays. Again, not a Heisman level caliber player last season. But as a red shirt freshman, he took his team within one play of being in the college football playoff semifinals. Cam Scatterbu had a lot to do with it, but so did Sam Leavitt. And if you choose to ignore that, then that tells me you didn't watch this team this season, you watched it via social media clips, and you watched a lot of box scores. That's what it tells me. And then the third criticism is that in the game, Cam outshined Sam. That's why he was the offensive, or was the MVP for the game, and that Sam Leavitt still has a lot to prove. We need to come to an agreement on what the definition of prove is. Sam Leavitt proved to me he can play on a big stage. Sam Leavitt proved to me that he can outduel any quarterback in the country. Sam Leavitt proved to me that no stage is too big, no lights are too bright, that when the game mattered the most, think of all of the work the team had to do to get the game back into overtime, to get it from 24-8 to 24-24, and then all the pressure in overtime to then finish the job. And what does Sam Leavitt do on a third down? Have to have it, because if you try to kick a field goal, you know that the team has kicker problems all year, and you know that there's a decent chance that Texas is going to score a touchdown, and then you lose. And so what does he do on that third down play? He scrambles and makes the play of the game. Sam Leavitt did that. Sam Leavitt did all of those things in that game on Wednesday. So what more does he have to prove? He beat Kansas State in Manhattan, Kansas, at home, was the starting quarterback that beat BYU. Went down to Tucson in the most look-ahead game of all time, trap game of all time. We've seen ASU teams lose those types of games in the past, where if you win, you're in the conference championship, or if you win, it sets up an important matchup in the future, and they fall flat. They did not do that. What about the Big 12 championship game? How did Sam Leavitt do there? Every single stage that this kid was under center for, again, I remind you, as a red shirt freshman, he passed. Now, it doesn't mean he didn't have help. It doesn't mean he didn't have one of the best running backs in the country. It didn't mean that he had what should have been a Heisman Trophy finalist in the backfield. And he had a great wide receiver in Jordan Tyson. I'm not taking anything away from Cam Scatterbu or Jordan Tyson. But what you're doing is not giving enough credit to the job that Sam Leavitt did as a red shirt freshman. Not as a senior. If he played that way as a senior, you'd have a point. Or as a junior who had been here for a couple of years. He did it in his first year with the team. Was brought in by Kenny Dillingham after last season. Transferred from Michigan State. And in his first year on campus, put up those numbers. Took this team to where they got. That doesn't happen with just a running back. You got to have the right leader and the right person under center. And so I feel emboldened, and I am doubling down on the take that I made yesterday. Because if that's the criticism that you're going to throw at me about why ASU doesn't have a dude, you haven't been watching Sun Devil football this year. And that's not a problem. You are welcome to join the bandwagon. You are welcome to join the fun. But this season proved to all of us, and that game on Wednesday proved to all of us, that Sam Leavitt is the guy for this university. He is the quarterback of this team. And the reason why I am so high on this team for next season, and why I think there is a very good chance that they're going to be a preseason pick to win the Big 12 next year, is because of Sam Leavitt. Because everybody else is going to see what I saw. He didn't turn the ball over in the second half of the season down the stretch. The one mistake that he made in the game on Wednesday was the interception that sealed it. Got to make a play to score a touchdown to win a football game. Not going to hold that against him, especially with how well he played in the second half of that game to get them back into it and the way he played in overtime. How many times in that game? And I think people misconstrue what I'm talking about. When I say that he played well, look at the context. Look at the situation. Redshirt freshman, down 24-8, down 14-3 in the blink of an eye, and he is scrambling around. Offensive line didn't play that great. Didn't have a great wide receiver core. And yet he's scrambling around, trying to make plays, trying to will this team back into it, and he is able to make some of those plays to get them back into it, and he made plays in overtime to give them a lead. 31-24 in that first overtime. Sam Leavitt did that. I know who ultimately got into the end zone and scored the touchdown, but Sam Leavitt made that happen. And so I'm doubling down today. You know what? Make it a declaration. Find room in the notebook, producer Corey. Find room for it. The Sun Devils have a dude at quarterback. And there is nothing, at least that has presently been presented to me, that is going to convince me otherwise. 480-864-1060 is the phone number if you want to join the conversation. Hour number 2. If this season for the Cardinals ends on a win, does it change how we should feel about this year? That's next on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Hour number 2 of the lunch break here on a Football Friday. We will talk about Corbin Burns being the latest example of something here for the Arizona Diamondbacks, but how he is the outlier. That in about 15 minutes. But the Arizona Cardinals will play their season finale on Sunday when they take on the San Francisco 49ers. And I posed the question going into the last break, and that is, if they were to win on Sunday, if they were to end the season at 8-9, would that change how we should feel about this season? And I'm going to make the case of why it should or why it might, and then we can make the case on why it won't. And the case for why it won't is obviously easier to make, and then the case for why it should change how we feel about the season. But let's start with them winning on Sunday and why we should take that and it should change how we feel about this season. Because it would be an 8-9 season. It would see them, double their win total from a year ago? That would be thing number one that you could, because now that the season's over and the Cardinals will have finished 8-9, you can now zoom out and look at the whole picture. And what does the whole picture tell you? They went 8-9, doubling their win total from a year ago. Finished just one game below 500. With the win, it would be their 6th home win of the season. The first time they've done that since 2015. That's another thing that you would put into the case for why you should feel good about this season. They would have gone 3-3 in the division, a 500 record against NFC West opponents. And when you consider Kyler Murray's track record against NFC West opponents, that is a market improvement. 8-9, nearly an above 500 record, 6 home wins, first time you've done that since 2015, 3-3 against the division, and just barely missing out on the playoffs. That's the case for why you should look at this season, if they win on Sunday, and say, this was, I know it didn't end the way we wanted it to, but it changes how I feel. It was a good season. That's the case. There you go. Get to 8 wins, double your win total from a year ago, 6 home wins, first time since 2015, 3-3 against the division. Maybe Kyler Murray's starting to turn the corner against his divisional opponents. You hope to follow that up with a good year in 2025. That's it. That's the case. And the opposite case is nothing that they can do on Sunday is going to change the fact that they went 1-5 leading into this game after the bye. They started the year 6-4. They ended the year 1-5, and they don't deserve to be let off the hook for that. That it should not be forgotten that they blew this opportunity. That this would be putting lipstick on a pig if you try to convince yourself that this was a good season. Because they started 6-4, and they went 1-5 going into this game. Now, if they lose on Sunday, that would be 1-6. And it would be 7-10 to finish the season. But if they win, it's 2-5 post-bye. So you would say they started 6-4. They went 2-5 after the bye. They were eliminated with 2 games to go in the regular season, and they completely collapsed down the stretch. They were 6-4 in first place in the division, and it turned around so quickly to where the last 2 games of the regular season they played didn't matter for them. Didn't matter. They were already eliminated before they stepped foot on the field against the Rams. So their last 2 games of the season, they were eliminated. They were out. They only played 15 meaningful football games. They started the year 6-4, 10 games in. And then in 5 games, it completely unraveled. That's a hard thing to overcome. It's hard to not look at this season, whatever happens on Sunday, and look at 6-4, and then either 7-10 or 8-9. That's a hard thing to overcome. And everything that I said about if you got to 8-9, that'd be a double win improvement. You double your win total from a year ago. 6 home games is something to be extremely proud of if they're going to try to turn State Farm Stadium into a home field advantage. And it's the first time they've done it in nearly a decade. 3-3 against the division is something really important. If this team is going to make headway in 2025, it is going to require them to win divisional contests. And so 3-3 is probably the floor that they need to hit next season. So to see them do that would be a good marker. It would be a good indicator of the future. All of those things can be true if they win on Sunday. And all of those things can be good silver linings, just like we did yesterday with ASU. We found the silver linings in a loss for the Sun Devils. The Sun Devils didn't have the cloud that is hanging over them the way the Cardinals have a cloud hanging over them, and that is you started the year 6-4. You got to your bye week in first place. The Sun Devils made a run late. Weren't supposed to be there, but checked every box. They were the Cinderella story of the Big 12. The Cardinals, you might want to call them a Cinderella story, but at some point you stop being the Cinderella. And when you are 6-4 and you are going into your bye week and you are in first place in the division and you control your own fate and you have the schedule that this team had in the second half, remember, how many times on this program did we tell you how easy the Cardinals schedule was post-bye? How many weeks did we come in here and say the Cardinals have one of, if not the easiest schedules the remainder of the way? Because they have the Panthers on the schedule. They have the Patriots on the schedule. They have a 49ers team that isn't very good. They get to play 2 games against the Seahawks, who are just a middle-of-the-road team. You should be able to at least split there. We did it. We played the win-loss game with that stretch of schedule over and over and over again to go through the different pathways to get this team into the playoffs. And when you got to 6-4, it was a pretty easy path. Beat the Panthers, beat the Patriots, split the 2 games with Seattle, and then find one other game. Minnesota, the Rams, the 49ers. Find one other game. And you get to 10 wins, and that's exactly where the Rams are sitting, and that's going to be good enough to get in. That's where they sat at 6-4. That can't be overlooked. That's not going to be forgotten about. The team going 1-5 down the stretch is going to overshadow all of the good silver linings that I have attempted to point out to you. Because a team, despite probably not, I don't want to say deserving, but talent-wise, shouldn't have been in that spot to be 6-4, they didn't take advantage of their opportunity. They didn't take advantage of a weak NFC West. They didn't take advantage of a 49ers team that was lost from the word go. They didn't take advantage of it. And so next year, if the 49ers are back, the Rams don't appear to be going anywhere anytime soon. The Seahawks are entering year 2 with Mike McDonald. You would expect them to get even better. Another year in that system. An offensive coordinator who was a rookie offensive coordinator now having a year under his belt. You expect them to be better. It's going to get a lot tougher, and the schedule doesn't help. You're playing a third-place schedule. You drew the Packers because of it instead of the Bears. It didn't get any easier than the way it panned out this year for this team. And so I can try to convince you that 8-9 is worthy of saying good season. I can tell you that going 3-3 in the division is worthy of saying this was a good season. This was an improvement. This was what this season probably was supposed to be. I could try to point to 6 home wins, and I could try to convince you of all of that. But this team has bigger aspirations than that. And this team had a chance to start those bigger aspirations. And the only reason why they didn't was not because of some injury or not because of some team got hot. It was because they unraveled post-bye. And when it is a self-inflicted unraveling, when it is because of your own mistakes and your own shortcomings, and it is because of Kyler Murray's poor play and the team's poor play overall, then that takes away from me trying to be able to find silver linings. Because guess what? Kyler Murray more than likely is going to be the quarterback under center, despite my objections to that. And I don't think they're going to make a ton of wholesale changes on the coaching staff, if any. And so they are going to run this back. So then it puts all the pressure in the world on Monty Ossenfort this offseason to fill the gaps, to increase the floor of this team, to improve the depth. That's where it puts all the pressure. And so if they win on Sunday, all of those things that I've listed will be true. And they are reasons to inspire optimism for what this team could be in the future. But this team, the 2024 Arizona Cardinals, are never going to shake the 1-5 post-bye stretch. They are never going to get out from underneath, blowing first place in the division in the year that the NFC West was having. The only way they get out from underneath this is by next year getting to double-digit wins, getting into the playoffs, and following up an 8-win season by getting into the postseason. That's it. That's the only way they get out from underneath the collapse in the second half. Because if anybody tries to convince themselves that it was nothing but a collapse, that it forced us to rehab the conversation about Kyler Murray, that it forced us to reevaluate where this team's floor and ceiling can be with him under center. That's what this stretch did. 6-4 feels like a lifetime ago. 6-4 feels like it didn't happen this season. Because we have spent more Mondays over the last couple of weeks breaking down losses and breaking down dumpster fires than we have the 6-4, 4 wins in a row. Do you remember that? Remember how great that felt coming in here, talking about how the team was dominating? Defense was great. Offensive statistics were awesome. They were super efficient. They were doing everything that they were supposed to do. Yeah. Feels like a lifetime ago. And so a win on Sunday is not going to change that. It makes it look a little better. Instead of being 1-6 post-bye, you're 2-5. But you collapse down the stretch, and there's nothing you can do on Sunday to change that. Corbin Burns, the latest example of something, but he's different in one very important way. I'll tell you what that is next on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. In 15 minutes, I will make the plays official. The Schubert 6 plays for Week 18 will be made. As we sit here right now, they are still not finalized. I have a bunch written down. 2 of them are locks. The others are not. I'm not there yet. I'm not convinced. I'm not ready to lock anything in. Honestly, in an ideal world, producer Corey, I just run out the clock on all of this and I just don't make picks. I think it's because we're doing really well right now. It's for 2 reasons. We're doing really well. And so I feel an obligation that there are people out there that probably listen to these picks and we've been doing really well that they might take them. So I feel an obligation to the listener that if somebody is going to follow my advice, now they shouldn't, let me make that very clear. We just do this for fun. We do this to see how we can do making picks on the show. Don't follow my advice, specifically this week. But then thing number 2 is, this is just a tough week in general. If we were 0 for our last 30, I would still hate all of these picks because nobody's playing in these games. So we have to get weird, and I think we're going to get weird in about 15 minutes. So that's coming up, the Schubert 6 for Week 18, the final regular season version of the Schubert 6. I do want to sneak in some baseball talk here today on the program. Great story in The Athletic by Ken Rosenthal, breaking down how it came to pass that Corbin Burnes ended up with the Arizona Diamondbacks, and it tugged on a familiar theme that we've seen with athletes in Arizona, and to a large extent with the Diamondbacks, is that the weather, the location, just everything about Arizona, the low state income tax it's a bargaining chip. It is an asset that the Diamondbacks and the Cardinals and the Suns and everybody else have at their disposal to go out and make a sales pitch to a free agent. Great weather, great location, Scottsdale, Phoenix, Gilbert, Chandler, all these great places, these great things to do. You're a 5-hour drive from Vegas. You're a 4.5-hour drive from San Diego. Everything's really close. That's a draw. And it's a reason why a lot of athletes live here. And this is where in their offseason, this is home base. And it was a similar story for Corbin Burnes. And they talked about Madison Bumgarner and Eduardo Rodriguez. And there are a bunch of athletes like this that have come to Arizona, not just for the Diamondbacks, but they've signed here, maybe on the back half of their career, or they chose Arizona as a destination because this is just where they wanted to be from a lifestyle perspective. Their quality of life is improved. And Corbin Burnes is no different. Now, that's not taking anything away from the job the Diamondbacks did here. They entered the fray, and they spent the most money they've ever spent on a free agent. Now, they have to see the deal all the way through with the opt-outs and deferrals that kind of muddy the waters a little bit, but if they see the deal all the way through, then they will have paid out the most money that they've ever paid out to a free agent. It's the biggest deal they've ever handed out at a time in which they don't have a TV deal that's giving them the cash that you're seeing other teams get. They deserve credit for this. Here's why this situation, in my mind, is a lot different from those other ones. Madison Bumgarner is the example that comes to mind, but I can think of the Cardinals and all the veteran players who came here on the back nine of their career to finish their careers in Arizona, and they just didn't really work out, right? The difference between all of those players, let's use Madison Bumgarner because he's also a pitcher and he also plays for the Diamondbacks. When they signed Madison Bumgarner, when they signed him to that deal, they were signing a guy that was past his prime. They were signing a guy on the back nine, maybe the back 3 of his career. And they knew when they signed that contract that they were not going to get peak Madison Bumgarner. They thought they were getting a good pitcher. They thought they were getting somebody that was a reliable, take the ball every 5th day leader for their rotation that was going to help kind of start the new chapter. That's what they thought they were getting. That was what the intent was. But it was not to be an ace. It was not to be a year-in, year-out Cy Young candidate. It was not to be the best pitcher in the National League. It was to be a stable veteran hand at the top of the rotation that could give us a lot of innings, help increase the floor of our rotation, and also instill wisdom in the rest of that staff. That's what Madison Bumgarner was signed for. Corbin Burnes is being signed while he is still one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. Corbin Burnes is being signed to be one of the best pitchers in the National League. Corbin Burnes is being signed to go up against the best of the best. Corbin Burnes was signed here to win games against the Dodgers, to win games against the Giants, to win game against the Padres, the Mets, the Phillies, the Braves, the Brewers. Name a team that's going to be in contention for the National League, both division and the wild card, Corbin Burnes was brought in here and given that money because the expectation is he is going to win those games for this team. He is going to be your game one starter in a playoff series, and the expectation, no matter where the game is played, no matter who the opponent is, Corbin Burnes is going to win that game for the Arizona Diamondbacks. That's the difference between all the other athletes that have come here in the back half of their career and Corbin Burnes. The Arizona Diamondbacks have signed Corbin Burnes in his prime. Cy Youngs could be in Corbin Burnes' future. MVP votes could be in Corbin Burnes' future. Dominating in the postseason could be in Corbin Burnes' future. The Arizona Diamondbacks, even though it's just for a 2-year runway at a minimum, that's the only guarantee they have on this, is it's 25 and 26. What happens after that is going to be up to Corbin Burnes and how well he pitches. But for the next 2 seasons, the expectation is every 5th day or 6th day, however deep the rotation is going to be for the Arizona Diamondbacks, the expectation is Corbin Burnes is going to give the Diamondbacks a chance to win a lot of baseball games. That if he makes 33 starts, the expectation is the Diamondbacks can win all 33 of those starts. That is what they signed. That is what they acquired. They didn't sign Madison Bumgarner on the back half of his career after winning multiple championships in San Francisco and being a dominant postseason pitcher and then wanting that to continue. That's not what they were getting. The Diamondbacks are getting Baltimore Corbin Burnes. They're getting Milwaukee Corbin Burnes. You're unfamiliar? Go find a highlight reel from last year. Go look up his stats from last year. Go look up at his stats from his time in Milwaukee. Those stats, those numbers, the greatness that is Corbin Burnes, that's what the Diamondbacks are expecting, and they are getting in 2025. They are getting, right now, as we sit here, a top 5 candidate for the NL Cy Young. If we were doing awards predictions and we were giving out 3 names for all of these awards, Corbin Burnes would be in that conversation. That's how good Corbin Burnes is, and that's the version of Corbin Burnes that the Arizona Diamondbacks are getting. They're not getting a washed up, they're not getting a retread, they're not getting a has-been version of Corbin Burnes or name an athlete. They are getting the peak version of Corbin Burnes. They are getting a peak ace starting pitcher. Bona fide, no doubt, hands down. You put his name at the top of the rotation with Sharpie marker, and then you move on to everything else. It's not even a question. That's what the Diamondbacks got. That's what they decided to do by, despite not having a TV deal, despite having their highest payroll in franchise history already last season, decided to get it close to, in the Athletic story, Ken Rosenthal says, $194 million is their current payroll for next season. Almost touching $200 million. The Diamondbacks are not going to make money if they're going to run that high of a payroll with no TV deal. They're going to take a loss on the season. But they are making moves because a unique opportunity presented itself to get a bona fide ace starting pitcher to add to their team. And the story from Ken Rosenthal makes it pretty clear. Right now, the expectation is you're not getting Zach Gallen in a trade talk. It's not happening. You want to talk about Jordan Montgomery? We'll answer that phone. The story mentions that they could potentially be interested in Brandon Pfaadt. Please don't do that. Mike Hazen, if potentially you're listening, don't do that. Brandon Pfaadt is the future of your rotation. Him and Ryan Nelson would be the 2 guys that I would be very, very afraid of moving. You got Merrill Kelly, who's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. Zach Allen's a free agent at the end of the year. Jordan Montgomery, you're going to help pack his bags if he's still here at the end of the year. 3 starting pitchers are guaranteed to leave. And then 2026, there's a cloud of Corbin Burnes opt-out. You need young, controllable starting pitching. Please do not trade Brandon Pfaadt. Do not trade Ryan Nelson. Do not trade those guys. Trade Jordan Montgomery if you're going to trade anybody, please. This team is going to give it a chance. They are going to have a 1-2 combination at the top of their rotation that can absolutely stack up with any single team in baseball. That's how good Corbin Burnes and Zach Allen are going to be as a 1-2 combination, a 1-2 punch at the top of the Diamondbacks rotation for 2025. I hope everybody realizes how impactful of a move this is. You can't sign Juan Soto to $765 million. You just can't do it. You can't sign Shohei Ohtani. You can't sign guys the way the Dodgers sign them. But you can do things like this because you have unique leverage. You have a place that people want to play. People love Arizona. Corbin Burnes lives here. It is a unique opportunity that they had, and they didn't just accept that they are already spending a ton of money. They saw an opportunity because Corbin Burns and his team reached out and said, hey, could we potentially make this work? This is kind of where he wants to be. And they were able to close the deal and cross the finish line. And you are getting a starting pitcher. You are getting an athlete during his peak, during his prime. The best years of Corbin Burns could be 2025 and 2026. That is what the Diamondbacks could be getting. I don't want to say that they will be because he could still have an excellent year and it's not a career year. You have a really solid chance to get 2 excellent years out of Corbin Burns at a minimum. So Corbin Burns is just like all the other athletes that have chosen Arizona because it's comfortable, because the weather's nice, quality of life, lifestyle, low state income tax, all the things that make Arizona great. But the difference between Corbin Burns and all of those other athletes, those other players in the other sports and baseball, is Corbin Burns is choosing to come here and is choosing to check all of those boxes and accept all of those nice attributes of being in Arizona while he is still at his peak. So get excited. Have some fun. You know what I'm not excited about? You know what's not going to be a lot of fun? I'm going to attempt to make 6 selections for Week 18 in the NFL. We're going to do it next here. The Schubert 6 on the other side. KDUS AM 1060. Are you sure we're live? You sure you can't play some more spots for me, producer Corey? You sure? You sure? Are you positive? So we're back on the lunch break is what you're telling me. And it is, I have to play the button here, and I have to make selections. That's what you're telling me. All right, welcome back into the lunch break. All right, just hit the button. Please, I'm going to look into the camera. Don't listen to anything I'm about to say. Okay? There's like, if we could play sirens, I would just play a disclaimer siren right now. Like, this is the, all kidding aside, and we've made it a theme here on the show, but I mean this. If you are somebody who likes to partake in sports betting, this is the toughest football week of the year. It is very difficult to try to figure out, because you have to guess on something very, very important. You have to guess on effort level. There's nothing that a coach can tell me. There's nothing that an injury report can tell me. I don't know that a team is going to be, like, I know the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be without Patrick Mahomes, right? I don't know what their effort level is going to be, knowing that they have a postseason game. There are games, right? Let me pick a game here on the schedule. Texans-Titans. Now, because they have a winning record. Let me pick a team. Let me find a game here where we've got two teams that legitimately don't have anything. I mean, 49ers Cardinals is the perfect example. Two teams below 500, playing for nothing. I now have to guess on the effort level of those two teams in attempting to make a selection. That's what I have to guess on. I have to try to figure out, I have to try to read a team and say, I've been watching this team all year. What do I think their effort level is going to be? And if they have a 50% effort level, or they make a bunch of changes, do I still think they can win? That is the task that is presented with me. So I'm going to make 6 selections. I'm going to try to do this. My 1-point play. They don't need the game. They'd like the game because it helps them lock in their opponent. They have owned this team before. I mentioned effort level. Their opponent hasn't won a road game all year. And so they need the game. Their opponent hasn't won a road game all year. I don't expect in the final game of the season. See, this is where the effort level thing can kind of mess with your head. I don't expect the Chicago Bears to be bringing an elite effort to the table on Sunday. I just don't. I think there's a lot of people that are going to be thinking, rightly so, about their offseason, about their vacation, about not focusing on football when you have a 4-12, potentially 4-13 season. So you know what? It's a big number. I wish I could make all of these 1-point plays, but my official 1-point play here on the show is the Packers -10 against the Bears. We mentioned earlier what the Packers have on the line in this game. They right now sit as the 7 seed. With a win and a Commanders loss, the Commanders playing the Cowboys on the road, that would move them up into the 6th seed where they would play the Rams instead of the Eagles. So there is something for them to play for. And the two teams play at the same time so they can watch the scoreboard. And so if you are going to tell me that they're going to step foot on the field on Sunday with something to play for and the other team isn't, I just expect there to be a better effort level from them, and they're also the better football team overall. It is a big number. It is 10 points. But I think no matter what happens in this game, I think the Packers win. And I think the Bears, if you get on them early, if you lean on them early in this game and you take a 10-0, 14-0 lead, 14-3 lead, I just don't think the Bears are going to just crawl back into this game. I just think slowly over the course of the game, the Packers lead is just going to grow and grow and grow. And by the time we look up at the end, the Packers might have won by 3 scores. That's what I think is going to happen. I just don't see the Bears fighting for 4 quarters in a back-and-forth battle with the Packers. I just don't see it. The Packers have something to play for. The Bears don't. The Packers are at home. The Bears haven't won a road game all year. Give me the Packers as my 1-point play. My 2-point play. Another big number. But I love what I saw from this team last week. They got in a have-to-have-it game. They needed it. They went in, and they beat a team that wasn't playing for anything. Last week, was eliminated. Done. Season was over. And this quarterback put up 5 touchdowns, and this offense scored 40-plus points, and they looked really, really good. And now this week, they're home. They're playing another divisional foe, which is exactly who they played last week. Different divisional foe, but they played a divisional foe last week, and they completely wiped the floor with them. They just for 4 quarters, dominated the Carolina Panthers. And so, yes, it's 2 touchdowns, but I just watched this team in the exact same circumstance against basically the exact same team in the division dominate and win. And they have to win in order to make the playoffs. If they lose, they open the door for the Falcons. So give me the Tampa Bay Buccaneers minus 14 against the New Orleans Saints. I watched Baker Mayfield play one of his best games last week, scored 5 touchdowns. They look really, really impressive. They need this game. They know if they lose, they open the door for the Falcons. They will make sure that they slam the door shut. It's not even a conversation, especially with the way that they played last week. So that is my 2-point play. I now need a 3-point play. Producer Corey, I have 2 games that I'm considering here. 2 that come to mind. Do I go with my gut? Do I go with what just is jumping out off the page to me? Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to write this down so it's locked in. My 3-point play is the Philadelphia Eagles minus 2.5. The New York Giants, for most of the season, have put in poor effort after poor effort. Not energy level. They've just been bad. They've just stunk. And they rattled off just loss after loss after loss. And it was bad. Many wondered if they would win another game throughout the season. And then last week, with Drew Lock under center, they beat the Indianapolis Colts to get their 3rd win of the season. And now they might have played themselves out of the quarterback conversation. And so I wonder 2 things. I wonder if they now got their win. They were able to not lose out the remainder of the season. And so their effort level is going to be completely different in this game. And secondly, they don't really need the game. They'd actually prefer a loss. And the Eagles, while they don't need it and they're benching everybody, no Saquon, I still think 2nd, 3rd team for the Philadelphia Eagles, you're telling me they just have to win by a field goal? I think the Eagles win the football game. And so if they win the football game, it's by 3 points. And so I will take the Eagles minus 2.5 as my 3-point play. My 4-point play. I desperately, somehow, some way, wanted to get into the Schubert 6, a play from the only game on the schedule that matters for both teams on Sunday. And that game that matters for both teams, that has the most highest stakes, first place in the NFC or the 5 seed and needing to go on the road for basically the entire postseason. That's what's on the line Sunday night when the Vikings take on the Lions. I wanted to have something in this game. Problem with it is, what do you take? Detroit is a 2.5-point favorite. Do you trust that defense? Do you trust what you've seen from them the last couple of weeks? Every single time they've played, they've needed to make it a track meet. Minnesota, offensively, has played really well as of late. Their defense has played the best version of them, has been the best version of themselves the last 6 weeks or so. So, do you take the Vikings plus the 2.5 to win the game, but the Lions are at home? Do you take the Lions at home, but you worry about their defense? No, you avoid it altogether. There was a key thing that I mentioned there when breaking down the Detroit Lions. What has every game for them the last couple of weeks looked like? The defensive injuries have stockpiled. They beat the 49ers last week. Final score, 40-34. The Bears the week prior, they scored 34 and won 34-17. The Bills, a 48-42 loss. The week before that, a 34-31 victory over the Packers. This team, the last 4 weeks, has scored at least 30 points. 2 times they've scored 40. They need a track meet. The 49ers are having a down season. Their offense, injuries all over the place. They still put up 34 points. You're now telling me that you're going to host the Minnesota Vikings team with an MVP candidate in Sam Darnold, an offense that's been really good? This number's big. It's caked in. It's 55.5. Give me the over 55.5. My 5-point play, I'm going in on the Cardinals. This is kind of what they do. Game doesn't matter. End of the season, home game. They'll win this one. They cover the 4.5. And my 6-point play. They need this game. The other team doesn't. The Miami Dolphins -1 against the Jets. I don't care that Tua is not going to play in this football game. The Miami Dolphins need this game to apply maximum pressure on the Denver Broncos, and the Jets team, Aaron Rodgers' future completely up in the air. They are not playing for anything, and I think this game gets out of hand. They have not played well for the last couple of weeks, and I think we've seen them be in vacation mode, and I think they will continue to be in vacation mode. So I will do the overall recap for the social media audience, and please, if you're listening to this on social media, the disclaimer that this is week 18 in the NFL and nothing matters to basically everybody. Nothing matters. So take all of these with a grain of salt. But our 1-point play, Green Bay -10. They are playing for something, and they're playing a Bears team that hasn't won a road game this season. Our 2-point play, Tampa Bay -14 against the Saints. They need the game in order to hold off the Falcons, and they are coming off a really impressive performance against the Panthers. I think it looks pretty similar. The Eagles -2.5 is the 3-point play against the 3-13 Giants, who got their win at the end of the season. I think they go back to reality. Our 4-point play, we wanted something in the game that matters the most to both sides. Minnesota-Detroit over 55.5. The Lions have needed to play in track meets all season long, especially in the last couple of weeks. Our 5-point play, the Cardinals -4.5 against San Francisco. This just is a gut thing. It feels like one of those games that the Cardinals win at the end of the season when their season is over. And our 6-point play, Minnesota -1 against the Jets. The Jets need the game. The Jets don't need the game. The Dolphins do need the game, and it's only one. I expect them to win. That is your Week 18 Schubert 6. On the other side, we will wrap up this edition of the Lunch Break with the leftovers. We'll do it next here, KUS AM 1060. Back to wrap up this edition of the Lunch Break. Incredibly, actually. I want to change 3 picks already. I know, man, but these... I'll get to whatever I was going to get to in the leftovers here in a second. I was going to talk about Costco, so I'll do that in a second. That's what I was going to focus on to close the week out. Because I have to make a Costco trip later, and I'm not really looking forward to it. There are 2 picks that I'm worried the most about. 3 of them that truthfully... I think what I would like to do is change my point allocation a little bit, but it is what it is. It's locked in. We have not done it all season long, so I'm not going to cry over spilled milk here and try to change my point allocation. I'm locked in here. But I think I should have put more weight on the games that mattered. Like I should have made Minnesota-Detroit's over my 5-point play, and I should have moved Green Bay further up the board because they're playing for something, and I really should have made the 1- and 2-point plays, Arizona and Philly. But the reason why I had Arizona so high is because I think when you're talking about these games where it doesn't matter for both teams, I think there's a better chance that it's true to form. It's true to who the teams are during the season, right? I'm not dealing with a situation where, let's use Chiefs-Broncos as an example. The Broncos are going to put out basically the exact same team they've been running all season long. The Chiefs are telling you, we're not starting our quarterback. Our entire offense is going to look vastly different than what it normally looks like. I can't handicap something I haven't seen all season. Arizona and San Francisco, they're not playing for anything, and I know San Francisco is playing Dobbs over Purdy, but both teams are basically going to look the same. There's not a whole lot schematically that's going to be different to what they do. So those games, that was the reason why I put it further up the board, because I think it's going to be more true to form. When you have one team that's trying and one team that's not, that's where things can get weird. If both teams aren't trying, or I shouldn't say not trying, I should say that they don't have anything to play for, I think it's easier to revert back to the norms of who the teams were throughout the season. And let's face it, throughout the season, the Cardinals have been a better team. The Cardinals are going to finish above the 49ers in the standings for a reason. The Cardinals have beaten this 49er team when, let's face it, when they played them, it was a better version of the 49ers than what they are now. So that's why I made them the 5-point play and took them -4.5. I really think Green Bay -10 was an oversight by me to make it the 1-point play. I think it should be further up the board. So to answer your original question there, Producer Corey, yes, it was painful. I hated every minute of it. And let's face it, I think when you are going to do a segment like we do on this program that is making picks, you want to do well. You don't want to make picks and look like an idiot. You want to win. And over the last 5 weeks, we have been doing a lot of winning. We are 22-8 over our last 3 weeks. That plus what we've done for the regular season, we are well above 500. We are hitting at a clip that you would love to hit if you were doing this professionally. I want to finish on a good note. We're transitioning into making 3 plays in the postseason, but making 6 picks every week, that's a lot of picks to make. And to be 22 of our last 30, I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that effort. And so we made a bit out of it here on the show. We had some fun with it, but I take pride in what we do here. I take pride in making the picks. I don't want to go 0-6 this week. That is a very realistic possibility when you're dealing with week 18 of the regular season. Potentially, there might be some other people who have some offers, but think about this. If we go 0-6, we will still be 22-14. We will still have an above 500 record. I don't expect us to go 0-6. I hopefully think that we made the right selections. Now, can I get into my Costco story? So, earlier this week, I made a Costco run. I made a Costco run after the show on Tuesday. Okay, this is where I'm going with the story. Me personally, I didn't expect all the people that were out in the middle of the afternoon I'm aware of that. I was aware that Tuesday, New Year's Eve, now we did a show, but other people were off. I was aware of that. My expectation was, at least the thought in my head was, if you were off for New Year's, you might have started your festivities earlier in the day. You weren't going to, like for me, I got done with work, went to Costco, then did some other stuff, and then went to our New Year's Eve party around 6, 7 o'clock. If you had off, your festivities might have started at noon, 1, 2 o'clock. You might have started having people over, watching the football games, and just enjoying the atmosphere because you had the day off. You can get a jump start. Well, clearly that was incorrect because I don't think I have been to Costco where there have been more people than at around 3, 4 p.m. on New Year's Eve. The worst time, a lot of people not knowing. See, this is the type of shopper I am. Exactly. I went in there. I was given a very clear directive. There were 4 things on the list that I needed to acquire. I knew it was New Year's Eve, so I knew there would be people there. So I knew, get in, get the 4 things, get out. It only works if other people want to oblige with that plan because people stop it in the middle of the aisles. People just, their cart, I can't tell you how many people that I saw on Tuesday that clearly have never pushed a cart before in their lives. It's their first time ever being in a grocery store. It sometimes felt like it was their first time ever being at a Costco. I'm telling you all this story, one, so that you can share in my misery of needing to go to the Costco on Tuesday, New Year's Eve. I have to go back today because there are things I forgot. I forgot. We didn't realize we needed them. There are things that I need, so I have to go back. Do we think it's going to be better or worse than what it was on Tuesday? It's a Friday. So you think today's going to be worse than Tuesday? Makes me not want to go to Costco at all today. I gotta be honest. It is my favorite. It is one of my favorite grocery stores. Truthfully, it is one of my favorite places to go shop. I love it there. Even in the chaos, I love it there. Tuesday was such a bad experience that it is now, it has made me try to maybe reevaluate if I need to be more strategic in when I go to Costco. I will tell you, there is one day in particular I will never go to a Costco. It's Saturday, mid-afternoon, like right around brunch time, 10, 11, 12, not happening. I am not going to Costco during that time. I'm not doing any grocery shopping during that time. Right. Saturday, Sunday is not the time for me to go to the grocery store. I will tell you, last night I had to go to Walmart for something. 9:30 at night, both the best and worst time to go to Walmart. Best, nobody in there. Worst, they're restocking everything, so there's a lot of stuff not available. So it was both the best and worst time to go to Costco. Now, this is not a bit. I literally got a text message from my fiance because I texted her and I said, I'm going to Costco again because I forgot stuff. Do we need anything? We need stuff. So now, and the stuff that we need is for tomorrow morning at around like 7 a.m. So there is no pushing this off. I now have to go to Costco today. Tuesday was just such a bad experience. It was just so bad. Oh, yeah, I mix it up. And there are times where I will go to a Costco and I'll expect a certain crowd. Like I'll expect there to be a lot of people. Like I'll expect 4:30, 5 o'clock, right after work, I get out of here, I go to the Costco. I know if I go to a certain Costco by the highway, there's going to be a lot of people. And I know that it's going to be crowded. And then there are other times I've gone to a Costco, 4:30, 5 o'clock, and it's empty. And I'm like, wow, I timed this exceptionally well. I've done such a great job here. This is the greatest shopping experience of my life. And then there are times where it's just an absolute zoo. And I think it's going to be the latter, not the former, later today. I might put it on the KDUS AM 1060 socials later today. I might just put a picture of what the Costco looks like while I am there today. That's what I have to look forward to today. And you did try to convince me to get out of it, but I don't have a choice. I have to brace everything. Now, but here's the other part, though. I love a good Costco lunch. No. I mean, well, yes, but in what I was referring to there was the food court. Nothing better than the Costco hot dog and a slice of pizza. There's nothing better. In fact, it is the first thing I will do when I go to the Costco. I will eat first. Well, yes. No, it's not bold. This is easy. No. I mean, I use a napkin. Like I'm not slobbing over myself. And then what happens is if you shop first and then eat, now you got to lug all your stuff around. And then you got to put the cart by the where you're sitting, and then it's in the way, it's blocking up the. I'm not going to be that person. I'm going to get my food. I'm going to find a place to either stand or sit. I'm going to be on my phone. Because again, I'm shopping by myself, and I'm not going to be a bother to anybody. And then when I'm done, I'm going to throw my stuff out. I'm going to go get a cart, and then I'm going to start my shopping. And then you can't shop on an empty stomach. Way more stuff ends up in the cart that way. Yeah, all of a sudden, a quick $100 trip is then a $500 trip. Easily. And that's before I even enter the electronics section. I think I had a leftover story that was not Costco related that I wanted to get to, but I forgot what it was. So just everybody enjoy the final week of the regular season in football. Oh, what a great PSA by you. No, this applies for everything. No matter where you go, you put the cart back. Show that we can do better as a society. Put your cart away when you are done shopping. Yes, it is honestly one of my biggest pet peeves when I get to a store, no matter where it is, and I see that somebody, and the worst is like they're 2 spots away from where the carts go back. It's like, dude, come on, man. Right, like, come on, man. Just it was right there. It was 3 feet away. Just it doesn't. No, it's not that much extra work. Please, please. Enjoy all the football this weekend. We are back on Monday. We will break down everything from the Cardinals regular season finale. It is firing day, unfortunately, in the NFL. We will know all of the job openings in the offseason. We will break all of that down. Maybe some baseball news. Who knows what the baseball world will give us, but we will break it all down. Appreciate all of you joining us here on the Friday edition of the program. Enjoy your weekend, and we will be back on Monday. See ya!